Hi everyone, this is Hilly. Welcome back to Hilly Reads. Today I'm super excited. I'm going to be doing a gay hockey romance bracket. These are 32 of the gay hockey romance books that I have read, and we're going to figure out which one is the best. I've read 37 gay hockey romance books in total, I believe. So I threw 32 of them on here. And obviously this is inspired by, Heated Rivalry being so popular right now. I mean, obviously I've been reading these kinds of books for a little while, so it's like super exciting for me to see Heated Rivalry blow up, and hopefully I'll be able to recommend a next read for you if you really loved Heated Rivalry. Heated Rivalry is also on this bracket, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But we'll just start at the top. You'll kind of see, you'll get a sense of what I like and don't like as we go along, and I'll give you a breakdown of what each of these books is about and some of the things I did or didn't like, and we'll go through this bracket together. So I seeded these based on the Goodreads ratings for them. So the first seed is our highest rated by Goodreads. It is The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer, and it's going against the last ranked one, which is Odd Man Rush by Michaela Gray and Ariel Bishop. So the rest of the story is about this hockey player named Morgan. He's he's like a veteran. He's been around a while. He is very much a one night stand, doesn't have really strong roots sort of guy. And he gets traded to this hockey team that sucks. They're terrible. They're like the worst in the league. And they have really, really terrible vibes as well. Their captain and also kind of their coach are really abusive and horrible. And Morgan goes there and he's just kind of intending to ride it out there, but he ends up trying to turn this team around. Because the team sucks so bad, they've had a lot of draft picks, and they have a lot of younger guys on the team who are supposed to grow into really exciting and good hockey players. And one of these younger guys on the team is Shay, and Shay and Morgan fall in love with each other. They become, as they're trying to turn this team around, they become co-captains, and yeah, they fall in love. And that's that synopsis. So I'll talk about Odd Man Rush and then talk about my thoughts on both of them. Odd Man Rush is about Eli. Eli is a goalie, and he is married to a woman, Noemi, and their marriage is weird. They don't communicate at all. Eli meets Rune, who I believe gets traded to his team, and I think Rune's like a defenseman. He's kind of like really good at making Eli, like, he's kind of like a little bit of like a tougher kind of guy, but he's like, he's nice and doesn't take things too seriously, and like really is really good at making like Eli laugh. And Eli starts to have feelings for him. It doesn't help that Rune also, in being traded there, didn't have a place to stay really, and so is staying with Eli and Noemi. So Eli is gay and has not communicated about this to his wife, and his wife is asexual and has not communicated that to him. So we'll start getting my thoughts with that, because it's harder for me to talk more about this book without giving my opinion on it. I am not surprised that this one is ranked at the bottom. I do not like this one very much. It's a novella. It's only 111 pages is what Goodreads says. It felt longer, that's for sure, because it's pretty miserable. It's, like I said, it's a lot of Eli and Noemi not communicating, and then I like these moments with Eli and Rune, but it's not fun enough. You don't get to see enough of their relationships. It's more, misery over them not being themselves and not being honest in their marriage. I like you know what I will say, like, because I want to say a good thing about it is I like these characters separately. Like dynamics. Although I like Eli and Rune together, but in this scenario, it's a little bit of a bummer. And I really like Noemi. It's rare in these books to have a strong female character that isn't like a very, very minor character. And she's obviously not, she's a big character in this one. And I like her. She's strong. She's cool. She's a college hockey coach. And she's like super busy. She's got a lot of her own stuff going on. She has her own interests and passions. And she is a cool person. So I want the best for her. And this situation ain't it. The rest of the story I love. I rated the rest of the story 5 stars. There's another Tal Bauer on here later that I probably shouldn't talk about yet either. I'll talk about it when we get there, I guess. I rated this book 5 stars. I love it. I was a little bit surprised it's the number 1 ranked one, but like pleasantly so. And what do I love so much about it? I love, one thing about me is for a gay hockey romance, I want it to feel like it is important that it is about hockey. I want to feel like you couldn't Control F and replace every mention of the word hockey with like baking, and it would feel like the same story, I want there to be like a sports narrative to it and something that feels specific to hockey, especially. Part of that is, well, I'm reading a gay hockey romance, so why would it not be about hockey? But also, I'm a very big hockey fan. I've been a hockey fan all my life. So I want to read about hockey a little bit too. I don't necessarily even like, big long descriptions of games they're playing or plays they're making or anything like that. Although I do like some of that in there. But I want the stakes of hockey to feel real. I want, in some of these, you don't even kind of understand where the team is at or what kind of player the player is, those are important things. And the rest of the story is not like those. You definitely understand, like I'm saying in the synopsis, this is a team that sucks. They're trying to be better. They're deeper into the story. They're trying to make the playoffs for like the first time in ever, and they're going on this like crazy run that is, they're just excited to make playoffs. And so you understand them as a team. You learn a lot about these different teammates, which is also big for me. I just for romance in general, do not like when you just hear the perspectives of the two people in a relationship and they don't seem like they talk to other people or know other people. Like they ostensibly have a family and friends and other things going on, but sometimes you wouldn't know it. But this is a very good one in hockey romance. You have a whole opportunity to flesh out these characters on a team. And that balance can be hard to get right. I think the rest of the story leans more on having these other teammates in it, and you care about them as well, and you are rooting for this team as a whole. You're like rooting for Morgan and Shay to get together, but you're rooting for this team. You want them to make playoffs. You want them to get better. You want these young players to like really come into their own. You're rooting for all of them, and it's so good. I haven't even really touched on the romance between Morgan and Shay yet, and that feels like a crime because it's good. Tal Bauer writes very good angst. Some of these are not angsty enough. I like a little bit of angst in there, okay? I want them to be pining. I want them to be yearning, okay? And Tal Bauer writes it very well. He writes it very well in this. I think about a couple moments in this, like a lot. Some of these kind of blend together for me and are pretty forgettable, but they have like a couple memorable moments at least. But this one has several very, very memorable moments, and I mean, it's just memorable in general to me. So that was a lot of talking. It's very clear what's going to happen here. The rest of the story is going to move on over Odd Man Rush. So we'll get into our next one. So these are the 2 middle-seeded ones, so they're theoretically they're as close as ranking as possible. This is the 16th seed and the 17th seed. 16th there is From Coast to Coast by J.J. Mulder, and then 17 is Off the Ice by Michaela Gray. There'll be a few Michaela Gray books in here. And I'll kind of talk more about what I think about Michaela Gray in general once we get to one later. Because I've read a lot of hers. So talk about From Coast to Coast by J.J. Mulder. From Coast to Coast is about Remy is just was recently divorced and traded to this team where Grayson is on. Grayson came out to his team and has had a horrible time since. They don't really talk to him. It's a pretty awful vibe. It sucks. I don't like that bit of it, but so Remy comes and Remy ends up living with him for a little bit, and they have some chemistry. And Remy's, I believe Remy's trying to like figure out this part of his sexuality, like he's divorced, and it's kind of new for him. He was married to a woman, and they kind of hook up, and then it becomes something more. It's not a super plot heavy book other than that. Off the Ice by Michaela Gray is a little bit different. It is about, so Ethan was a goalie and he was hurt on the ice and can't play anymore. I believe he has a limp still. He's like still hurt from it, and it's still kind of hard for him to like get around walking and stuff. The person who kind of like, not intentionally, but like ran into him and hurt him is Tanner. And Tanner feels awful about it. He's very much a martyr about it. But he also is having a hard time getting back on the ice after it happening. He thinks about how he ended Ethan's career. So it's the off season, and there's not this whole book takes place during the off season. And Ethan isn't a hockey player anymore, and Tanner ostensibly still is, but again can't get on has a hard time getting on the ice again. So this isn't like a book that like has a lot of hockey in it, but it has a hockey storyline, which I like. Like this is a scenario that happened because of hockey, and it makes sense, and hockey is clearly important to these characters, and there's an arc with it. I didn't even get into the part about, so Ethan now he has like his grandfather's old farm, and it's kind of, it's like a little bit run down. He's got like an annoying donkey or something. It's kind of fun. He's on his farm, and I don't, then, Tanner, kind of runs into him organically, not like runs into him again, but like they have a meet cute perchance sort of thing, I guess. They know who each other are, and Tanner, like I said, is a little bit of a martyr, so he wants to help out Ethan, and he wants forgiveness from him as well, and they end up falling for each other. A lot of my stuff, and then they end up falling for each other. But a lot of the stuff's on this farm, which is kind of fun. That's kind of a different vibe for these. I mean, I'll start kind of comparing these, I guess. Gosh, it makes sense to these that these are kind of rated around the same area. I think From Coast to Coast is not super memorable. I think they have a few cute moments, but like I said, there's not much plot. I like don't even remember having like much of a catharsis in the arc for like Grayson's been miserable for a while because he came out and it wasn't a good experience for him, and his teammates are like mean to him. I don't even think there's much catharsis from that. I don't remember it, at least. Like they have some cute moments that I do remember, but I think Off the Ice does stick out more to me. It is like a pretty different vibe from a lot of the other ones in this bracket, but like I said, the hockey part of it still matters, and they have good chemistry. They have good back and forth. If I think about it more, like I pretty distinctly remember moments. I like ride a horse at one point. I think the evolution of them, getting together felt good. Obviously like Ethan is like hurt not just physically but emotionally from this like this awful thing that happened to him and that Tanner was a part of, even though he not intentionally, and he feels awful about it. But I think that transitioned into them like starting to trust each other really well. And I think they have some cute moments and some good banter and back and forth, and I think I'm gonna pick it. I think I'm gonna pick Off the Ice over From Coast to Coast. It stands out a little bit more. I do not like this cover though. Look, there's another cover for this book. In all fairness, I could have picked that, but I don't like that one either. Whatever. I'm not here to critique the covers because I would have. This would be a 3-hour video if I'm going through all the covers. But we've reached the other Tal Bauer book. It is Gravity. Before I get into it, to be honest, I am surprised that Gravity is not rated higher. I thought the consensus was that people liked Gravity more than the rest of the story. I think Gravity... Yeah, I guess I just thought that, but no. It's here, it's ranked 9th, and then it's up against 24, which is Blindside Hit by Michaela Gray. And I think that is the first Michaela Gray one. I'm pretty sure it's the first one I read, at least. So, Gravity by Tal Bauer is about Bryce is a hockey player he's like one of the best. And he, at the All-Star game, meets Hunter. Hunter is kind of like in shock he's even at the All-Star game. He doesn't view himself kind of as that caliber of player. But he majorly looks up to Bryce. Like, Bryce is has been one of his favorite players, and he really idolizes him. And they meet at the All-Star game, and they hit it off instantly. They, like, really click. Their back and forth is really good. Talking and on the ice, they have, like, crazy on-ice chemistry, which is really fun. And, Bryce has always kind of suppressed and repressed himself, and then he kisses Hunter, and Hunter's like never even kind of even explored that part of himself or even really thought about it, and he's just kind of caught off guard. And I don't know how much more I want to say about the synopsis for that one. And it goes from there. And then they fall in love, which is how all this synopsis probably is gonna end. They're romance books, guys. And then Blindside Hit is about Adam. I like that in this one. Okay, so if you don't know how the NHL kind of and other leagues work together, is the NHL is the best professional North American league. Below that is the AHL, and then below that is the ECHL. So, players can be drafted by a team or under contract by a team and, depending on their contract or whatever, be playing for that NHL's team, AHL team, ECHL team, whatever. And this one's kind of different because Adam is an AHL player, but he just got an NHL contract, and he's going to go play for the NHL team eventually. And then he has a one-night stand with Etienne, and Etienne I believe is an ECHL player, and will move up to AHL presumably at some point. And they have a one-night stand, and Etienne after that is, just kind of, they have really good back and forth, and then they have a one-night stand, and then Etienne kind of leaves after that. Etienne has really awful self-esteem issues, particularly with his looks and stuff, and so it just kind of like writes it off as like, Adam is like this golden boy, obviously going to be in the NHL, super good looking, charming, everyone likes him. And Etienne doesn't have very high self-esteem, just kind of writes it off as like, Adam was drunk, whatever. It's not a big deal, didn't mean anything, whatever. And Adam wants to see him again, though, and kind of tries to drag him out. And Etienne kind of like keeps trying to dodge him, but at one point Adam gets injured, and Etienne kind of helps him out, and he kind of gets more involved in his life, and Adam kind of keeps insisting that he likes him. And I like that so I'll get into what I like about these. I like that Blindside Hit has plot to it, and I like that Gravity has plot to it as well. hockey matters in these books. In Blindside Hit, it matters with Adam's injury a lot, and you know these two players are like clearly trying to work their way up, you know, from ECHL, AHL, NHL, and you get a little bit of sense of some of their teammates too, which not too much, but like an okay amount. I think Michaela Gray's pretty good at doing that, of like establishing at least like a few other players on the team. And I guess this is the part where I'll get into like what I think about Michaela Gray in general. So Michaela Gray is like I think Blindside Hit is the first one I ever read, the first gay hockey romance I ever read. Michaela Gray is the first author of these books that I read, and so I think I do have a special. I know I didn't say like nice things about Odd Man Rush, and I wasn't like particularly effusive about Off the Ice, but some of these other ones I'm gonna be a little bit, you know, have more nice things to say about. Those are probably the two that I like the least, I guess. At least Odd Man Rush I like the least. But I think you have a special love for your first gay hockey romance writer. You know, the way you only can for your first. And I think it's really cool. A lot of people now are gonna have that for Rachel Reed, and I hope they want to read other ones. And you know, this is obviously my opportunity to let them know about some other ones. So I do have a special place in my heart for Blindside Hit. And I like Adam and Etienne. I am like very down with like a character who kind of has really, really bad self-esteem issues, and has a little bit of an arc with that. I am not annoyed by Etienne in this. I like him, and I relate to some stuff from him. And Adam's funny, and I like their back and forth, and the stakes in this one feel real in their relationship and outside of it, and I just really enjoy it. I really like this one a lot. Gravity I also really love too, though. This is actually gonna be this is the first like kind of difficult matchup for sure. So Gravity, oh man, I love Gravity. This is one that I think about Gravity a lot, honestly, and there are specific parts of it I remember really, really well. I like Hunter and Bryce together. The hockey to it also matters. I like when, you know, like how you can see how the characters are feeling through how they're playing. And so like when they're playing together at the All-Star game, you know, like I said, they have crazy chemistry. They're playing together so well. When they go back to their own teams, and Bryce is kind of upset about how things went. He's not playing as well. And then later things happen in which they both are playing better, that I won't get into specifics of, but God. It's really, really hard. I think Gravity, if I like off the top of my head, if I'm like recommend a gay hockey romance to someone, I might go Gravity. Just out of all of these, honestly, just off the top of my head, if I'm thinking about it. I think it's well written. I think the chemistry's good, and I think there's stakes, but I think it doesn't get too into the weeds with anything that might be off-putting to some people. It's tough for me to knock Blindside Hit out this early, but I'm gonna do it. I love you, Blindside Hit. You have a special, special, special place in my heart. And we'll get to the other Michaela Gray ones, obviously, in the bracket, but I think if I would recommend a Michaela Gray one, maybe try Blindside Hit. Maybe this is cheating, but whatever. It's another Michaela Gray one. We got a lot of Michaela Grays in a row. Okay, next is Let's Do This by Lauren Lee and Power Play by Michaela Gray. So Let's Do This is about, it's about, they're college hockey players. A few of these are about college hockey. This one's about Shaw and Eden, although they call him Burke a lot, is like his hockey nickname. And they play on a college hockey team together. They also are roommates and live with a couple other players on their team as well. And they're like best friends. They hang out a ton, like really in each other's pockets. Part of the premise of this one is that Shaw opens a package that was meant for Eden and then ends up seeing him in like a whole other light, and then they hook up and get in a relationship eventually. This one is has a little bit of plot to it with it gets a little bit kind of into how, you know, college hockey players aren't even accepted, and out college hockey players aren't even kind of accepted in this world, and also them trying to kind of figure out their futures. They both want to play in the NHL. They apparently weren't drafted or anything, but you know, they're playing in college and trying to earn like a contract or something, and trying to figure out their futures with that. Yeah, that's kind of it with that one. That power play is about Gunnar is this hockey player who, especially in the past, used to be like a real playboy, party guy, whatever. Gets like years in the past got traded to this other team where this guy Will is the captain, and you know, Gunnar kind of settles down a little bit, but he's not, you know, like the most responsible guy in the world. And part of that is, you know, from being traded to this new team and his friendship with Will, they become best friends. And so it's years later, and a 6-year-old little girl shows up at Gunnar's door, and it is his daughter. He had a one-night stand, you know, years ago, and never knew that he had a daughter from it. And his daughter's mother passed away, and now he is gonna take care of her. And he, you know, wasn't, you know, he's gotten more responsible, but wasn't necessarily ready to be a dad or anything. So a lot of the book is him kind of figuring out that situation. Him and Will are, you know, also like best friends who are secretly in love with each other, but now especially that like Gunnar has a daughter, he doesn't want to do anything about that. I'll get into my thoughts a little bit as I explain this a little bit more, because I kind of have to. It's the issue in this is a little bit dumb and a little bit forced, of like, Gunnar is like, nothing else in my life can change right now. I just need to be able to rely on you as my friend, Will. I can't get in a relationship right now. Even, you know, after they've kind of both, after a little bit, they both kind of make it clear to each other that they are both into each other and have been for a while. But Gunnar is kind of resistant because he is kind of, you know, figuring out this thing with his daughter. But it, you know, starts to get to a point where it's like a little, you're like making your own problems. You're making it worse for yourself for no reason. And so it's not the best one. I like the idea of it. I think it's a good idea, and I do like the two of them together. I like you get the sense that they're best friends. Let's Do This. I reread it this year. I had read it previously. I don't really know why I reread this one. Maybe partially because I kind of completely forgot it. And I think some of these you know, I've refreshed my memory in order to kind of do this bracket and stuff, but I read them, and I read like 4 of these in a row or something until they kind of blend together, or I don't forget them. I don't remember them super well. I do forget them a little bit. So I kind of forgot about Let's Do This, and then I reread it, and I was like, I understand why I kind of forgot about this. It's not the most memorable one in the world, but it is fun. It's good. I like their best friendship even probably more than Gunnar and Will's, which is maybe what makes this an interesting matchup. Maybe it just comes down to, I think there are issues with both of these plots, and so it might come down to which of these couples I like better, which is, you know, so yeah, okay, so the problem with the Let's Do This plot is that it's a little bit all over the place. There's not a super cohesive arc, I feel like. Like, there's some stuff that gets brought up, I think, for Shaw, kind of like some of his like issues, like kind of late in the book, and you're kind of like, where does this come from? Doesn't feel like the most cohesive, like, planned out plot ever. They just kind of have like random little problems that come up. But Power Play, like I said, is just kind of like them just creating their own problems for a while. And I don't know, some people are annoyed by kids. I think the kid is fine in this. I don't remember the kid being like bad or anything. I'm not like opposed to a kid in a book. Crazy thing to say. I think I'm gonna go with Let's Do This. I think that's the way I was leaning. Yeah, it's not. It's a close one. I think it's a pretty close one. They're pretty similar in my mind. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't know why this is 8 and this is 25. I don't know. I did actually see it's Goodreads. Some people really, really did not like this one, but I don't know. Okay. Next is The Legend Next Door by Jesse H. Rain, and then Winging It by Ashlyn Kane and Morgan James. So The Legend Next Door is about Ben. He is a retired hockey player. So there's not really there's not like a ton of hockey in this one, but the hockey does matter a little bit, so it gets a pass for me on that one. He's a retired hockey player and also a single dad to his son Luca. His wife passed away, and he is next door to Jeremiah. Ben basically just like kind of packed up and moved him and his son to just kind of like get away. He retired and was like, I'm leaving, we're going somewhere new. And then now he lives next to Jeremiah. Jeremiah is interesting. He's kind of, I don't know, he's like a little bit of a free spirit. He's like living in his aunt isn't there currently, but he's like living in her house, which is how he's like staying in a house that's like nice enough to be next to a retired NHL player, I guess. Doesn't super matter. He does like yoga and stuff, and he's super horny and funny, and he's really good with Luca, Ben's kid. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of like initially how they meet, is like Luca's wants to meet the neighbors and stuff. And Jeremiah's really good with him. And he, is just kind of like a good neighbor to Ben and Luca, and they just start hanging out more, and then they fall for each other. What else? It's not like a super giant plot one, but Winging It, the one I'm going to move on to next, is like even less plot probably, honestly. So, Gabe is a hockey player, and Dante is another hockey player. They're both very, very good, like probably going to make the Hockey Hall of Fame or something, I think is what it says even in like the synopsis. Gabe takes things a little more seriously than Dante, though. Dante doesn't take things not seriously, but he's like a pretty easygoing person, like wears his heart on his sleeve. And they are on the same team, and Gabe gets outed. He takes it like pretty okay. It's not like it's not super bleak. He's not happy about it, obviously, but it's not things go okay for him, I'll say. And Dante, as kind of like a more easygoing person, is like him and Gabe were super close before then. I can't remember if like Dante's new to the team or whatever, but Dante kind of wants to be there for Gabe and support him, and in doing that, kind of starts developing feelings for Gabe, and then Gabe starts developing feelings for Dante, but Dante, especially like as a person who like really wears his heart on his sleeve, has a hard time with Gabe has been outed, and everyone knows about him now, but he doesn't want their relationship to be public, and so Dante has a hard time with that. And that's kind of the main conflict plot of the book. The stakes don't feel super high, though, which, if I'm getting into comparing these, is probably my problem with Winging It, is there are less moments that stand out for me between the two of them, and I got a little bit bored because there was not a lot happening. They're like in a relationship, they like have a third act kind of argument moment, but things are gonna be fine. So And then in The Legend Next Door, I think has it has a little bit more depth to it, even if there's not like always a ton happening. Like obviously Ben is still kind of dealing with the death of his wife, and I think it's really balanced well of like that is giving weight in a way that it doesn't feel like it's, like completely brushed off or anything, but it's still like the book still manages to be pretty light. I think it's balanced really well. And Ben is also kind of struggling with him being retired, and it's kind of hard for him to go watch his old team play. And he just kind of needs support in general right now. He's going through it and is a newly single dad, and Jeremiah's really there for him. And I think it's good. The Legend Next Door in particular has one moment that like really really stands out to me, and I really really think about it a lot. I think it's really sweet. It's kind of born of how I like that. I don't think Ben was like previously really thought about how he was also into men before, but he just kind of like he's like pretty easygoing about it. He just kind of like he's like, okay, I guess I like Jeremiah. He like at first like doesn't know what's happening, but then he's kind of like it comes to a head, and he's like, oh, I like Jeremiah. Okay, cool. And he just kind of goes with it. So I like that. I think I have not been talking about spice in these so far. I don't think I mentioned it at all, actually. That's a little bit wild. But I like how Jessie H. Rain writes her sex scenes, which I think is divisive. We're going to talk about it more in the other Jessie H. Rain one on here. But Legend Next Door wins. Winging it's just a little boring. Alright. Fire in the Ice by Ryan Taylor and Joshua Harwood, and Zero Pucks, which is by E.M. Lindsay. Okay, so Fire in the Ice is about Tyler gets traded to this team that Kevin is on. Tyler and Kevin knew each other in high school. I think they went to like a boarding school or something where they all played hockey together. And Tyler was 3 years older than Kevin, but Kevin always had a super big crush on him. And Tyler kind of brushed him off because he was 3 years older than him. And they were in high school. And later after that, they're on this team. They're not excited. They're not excited about it. Tyler just not excited to see Kevin again. After something else happens between them, Kevin's not excited. He really takes it personally that Tyler was not into him. And they really create a lot of their own problems from there. I don't know much else to say. Zero Pucks. I have a lot more to say about the synopsis, though. So, Zero Pucks is a little bit different. Zero Pucks is about Tucker is a sled hockey player. He was like drafted by the NHL and like set to be in it, and but got into a car accident, lost both of his legs and some of his eyesight. And so now he plays sled hockey, which was really cool for me to read about. I don't know very much about sled hockey. I, because of this, have been like watching more clips on Instagram and stuff, and I'm excited to see like the Paralympic team compete. Because sled hockey's really metal. Sled hockey's very. If you haven't like watched it before, I would like look it up because they're like on the ice. They have like sticks that they use to kind of dig in the ice to move themselves, and there's blades down there and stuff. It's very metal. Zero Pucks, like will describe how they're like always bruised from like they're running into each other and stuff too. It's still like a very very physical game, but so that was interesting. But anyway, back to the plot. So Tucker is a sled hockey player. He goes to Vegas to like be a part of his like him and his twin brother are not friends, and he goes to his bachelor party anyway, and then has a terrible time, and then his twin is awful to him, so he decides to go get drunk by himself, and he meets Amadeo. and him and Amadeo are drunk, and they get married. They get married in Vegas. But Amadeo, has to leave the next morning and has to go home. So he leaves before they really get a chance to talk sober. But then he finds out that they were in fact married. Both their memories are very blurry. And then so Amadeo kind of tracks Tucker down and goes to talk to him and be like, "Hey, what do we do about this?" Amadeo is, I think he's in IT or something. He's talking about how he's a nerd or whatever, and he doesn't have a very interesting job. But he's very sweet. And he also had an abusive boyfriend who is part of the plot of this, of him getting away from that abusive boyfriend, and he just kind of ends up staying in the town Tucker's in for a while as they kind of try to figure this out, but also they like each other. And Amadeo does not want to be around his abusive ex-boyfriend. Zero Pucks has a lot of depth to it that I really appreciate, and obviously I learned a lot about what sled hockey is and stuff. I can't really I can't from an informed point of view speak on disability, physical disability like that, but just from an outside perspective, it seemed like it was handled well, and the author did a lot of research, and it was interesting to read about. It was it sets itself apart from a lot of these. It also, I think this one in particular too has a really good group to it. You get to know some of the other sled hockey players. Some of them they're clearly setting it up for future books in this series. One of the other ones we'll talk to. I haven't read the third one in this series yet, but I've read the second one. Will be in the next. I see it down there. It'll be in the next one, and but it's not distracting. It's there are these three guys. It's Tucker, Broden, and Ford. You have to forgive me. There's a lot of white boy names to remember for me to remember this video. So it's Tucker is the guy in this one, and he is friends with Bowden and Ford, who are also on his sled hockey team. And they have a really strong friendship. They're also, there's some other guys too, but the three of them especially have a very strong friendship that's really fleshed out and clearly very important to them and matters in the plot of the book. And I really, really appreciate that. They very much talk like what I assume, boys talk where, they're talking about farts and joking about sucking each other's dicks a lot. It's a little bit much sometimes, but Tucker's not like that as much with Amadeo. So it's still romantic. So I don't know if you noticed, well, we were talking about Fire and the Ice, but I don't like it very much. I think it's one of my least favorites. I don't even think I like that couple together. I don't even think I'm rooting for them to be together, honestly. But I am very much rooting for Tucker and Amadeo. They're so cute. So we're moving forward. Zero Pucks. That's the easiest matchup yet. Okay, so next is Pucked Up by E.M. Lindsay versus Butterfly by Michaela Gray. Pucked Up is the this follow-up to Zero Pucks. A lot of these are they're sequels to each other in the same world and stuff. And a lot of them, you don't have to have read the previous books, although it will give you some context of the world and probably some characters that will come up. I think these ones you probably should read them in order. Actually, I haven't read the third one yet. I know, but I know what the third one's about. You definitely should read these in order. So I just disclaimer, would not recommend reading this book number 2 without reading book number 1. That's not the case for all of these ones, but I think it is for this one. Because Bowden set up pretty well in the first one in a way that doesn't feel like you're just setting him up for the next book. He's also really important to Tucker, and you get to know him a little bit in that one. And you also the timelines of those ones kind of overlap, so you see stuff that happens in this book but it's happening from Tucker's perspective, and he doesn't really totally know what's going on with Bowden, but he knows Bowden's upset about stuff and whatever. So, and that was good too. That didn't like ruin anything for me. It was interesting to see from Tucker's perspective, and then go and be like, what's really going on with Bowden? So Bowden is also on this sled hockey team. I don't think I mentioned it previously, but it's like a beer leagues sled hockey team, I think. But this takes place in a world where there is a professional Paralympic hockey league. It's called the PPHL. And Bowden is trying to get back in it, and he wants to play. He like previously had played in the Olympics. And made some silly decisions there that got him, kicked out. But his main goal in life basically is to get to the PPHL. He wants to play professionally. Tucker in the previous one does not have these same ambitions. He's just having fun, basically. But that's all Bowden wants. Bowden was born with cerebral palsy, and he comes from this family that gives him a lot of baggage. His grandfather and his father were both NHL players, and they like won Stanley Cups and stuff, and so they really, really expected to the next generation would carry on, and they would be this like big dynasty and stuff. But then Bowden was born with cerebral palsy. It was clear that wasn't going to happen, so he has a lot of weight on his shoulders from like his family's expectations of him that he just like couldn't possibly ever live up to, and they do not care as much about sled hockey as they do stand-up hockey. And that leads him to make some silly decisions, like the decision that got him kicked out of the Olympics, and decisions in this book. I think, there's, he's, dealing with a lot of emotional baggage. The other guy is Hugo. Hugo is not disabled, and he becomes the coach of this team. He has like disabled family members. He's qualified to be a coach, but Bowden doesn't really know that or see that. He just kind of sees that he's just kind of mad in general. He has a lot of rage. So he just kind of places a lot of that anger on Hugo. It also doesn't help that before Hugo becomes the coach, I forgot to add this part originally, is they hooked up. They had a one-night stand. Bowden does that in a way where he's like, we're not even telling each other our names. We're just gonna hook up and then go our separate ways. And they do that, and then Bowden shows up one day, and then Hugo is his coach. So he's admittedly thrown off by that. And yeah, so I'm figuring things out. Butterfly is about Felix, is a goalie. He had like a boyfriend previously who like kind of like doxed him, and it was really a terrible situation for him, and he felt really, really unsafe. And so he's a little bit guarded, and he was kind of guarded in general anyway. It was kind of him letting someone in, and then they kind of got screwed by it. And he meets Fisher. Fisher is a teacher, and Fisher's super cool. He, he wants to settle down one day, but he's like, just hooking up with people now, and he's like, I don't know, he's cool. I like him. I like his vibe. He's like comfortable with who he is, but like understands risks to him. He's like in a pretty conservative school system. I think in like a private school or something like that. So he does have his own problems with like, balancing like being himself versus like having to fit in this like system that doesn't really allow for that. So they start hooking up, him and Felix, and then they get feelings eventually. I kind of didn't remember this one super well, and was reading some of the reviews through it, and kind of forgot about some of the later conflict stuff in it that happens, and some of it is kind of just like reading the Goodreads description. I'm like, wow, that is batshit crazy. I didn't really even remember it happening, and so I don't think it's probably that great. I think this is one of the ones I read, like 3 years ago, so I don't remember it as well. And like having 3 years to reflect on it, I don't think helped me with it. And I've read Pucked Up a lot more recently, and I think Pucked Up is gonna move on. I like the chemistry between both of these couples, but there's not really any Felix and Fisher moments that stick out to me. And Bowden and Hugo have the benefit of being a little more recent. So I think I'm going to move them on. Okay. So the last one on this side of our bracket, we're almost halfway through, is Line Mates and Study Dates. That is by Eden Finley and Saxon James. And then Game Changer by Rachel Reed, which you might recognize that one if you've been in on the Heated Rivalry stuff. Game Changer is the first book in that series, and characters from it are in the Heated Rivalry TV show, and I will not say more about the TV show other than that. Okay, so Line Mates and Study Dates. It's about Asher and Cole. So Asher is the hockey player. This is another one that is a college one. Asher plays on a college team. He has a lot of baggage, and he's kind of like a bad boy, angry boy, whatever, but it's like pretty clear what his deal is. So his parents were in a car accident and died, and he has a bunch of younger siblings. I don't remember how many. They're not really fleshed out as characters. They're just, there's younger siblings. And him and his older brother, who is also one of the assistant coaches on his college hockey team, have to try to take care of all their siblings, and also Asher has to go to college and also be on a college hockey team, and it's just a lot. And he also, acts rashly sometimes and is, still grieving his parents, and so he's going through a lot. And, there's some antagonism between him and his older brother, too. They're not always on the same page, I guess. And he meets Cole. Cole is the other coach's son, and he's like, I don't know, he's like lost a bet to his dad or something. It has to be like the equipment manager for the year. He used to play hockey. He does not play hockey anymore. He mostly played hockey, I think, because his dad wanted him to play hockey. And so the title of the book comes from Cole eventually offers to like help tutor Asher, because Asher is having a hard time juggling all these like million things he has to do and needs some tutoring, and so Cole offers to tutor him, and then it also gets like sexy. I don't know why I said it like that. But it does. And I like it. Well, I'm not getting into my thoughts yet. Yeah, it's basically what happened. They had to kind of hide their relationship because he's like, Cole's like the coach's son, and so there's some drama in that. And Asher's supposed to be being good and whatever, so he can stay on the hockey team. And hockey matters to it like a little bit. They're trying to win the championship, but it also like, I don't know, it doesn't super matter. It's mostly like Asher having to juggle everything and them being put into situations because Asher's a hockey player and Cole is the equipment manager for the team. So like sometimes they're like in the locker room together and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna Game Changer. Game Changer, if you don't know, is about Scott and Kip. Scott is he's the captain of the New York Admirals. He is gay and just never really always, repressed that of himself, and has been sad because of it. It's been really sad. And he meets Kip, who makes smoothies. And Kip makes him a smoothie one day, and then he finally plays well in a game that night. And so then he keeps coming back and getting smoothies from Kip. It like becomes part of his routine. And he really likes Kip and gets together with Kip, but Kip is has a hard time keeping the relationship a secret because Scott can't come out. There are no hockey players that are out, and that's the main conflict of the story. So if I'm gonna get into like comparing these and my thoughts on them. So Game Changer, I like. It is cute. think I read it at the right time, just for me, for it to just like hit, and I just was, like having fun. It's not, it's a little boring. The plot's not that crazy. The main thing of what I said before is like, Kit's sad that Kip. I don't know why I called him Kit. Kip is sad that they can't be open about their relationship. And so a lot of the a good portion of the book is unfortunately just him being sad in Scott's apartment, and that wasn't as much fun to read. But I like them. I like their dynamic. I'm rooting for them always. The end of this book's really good, and it very much feels like a first book of one of these, where it's just kind of, not going too far on a limb. They're a little bit bland. They're not the most complex characters in the world, and it's not dealing with, that much complexity. Lightmates and Study Dates is not a first book. It's a fourth book in this series of college ones. I have two other ones on this bracket, but I don't think this is one you have to read in order, because I haven't read one. Like, you notice I have 3 of these books on there, and this is the 4th one in the series, so I skipped one. And I'll probably have to go back and read it at some point, but this is the 4th one. And I like Asher. I like Cole. I think they do have a little bit of more depth to them. Obviously, Asher's dealing with a shit ton. I think they go through these moments together that, like, you see how that would really, bond them as characters, and you see them, Cole in particular, really being there for Asher in a way that, like, it makes sense that Asher really likes him for sure. And can kind of let his guard down a little bit, and I don't know. I mean, Asher really, like, and especially in the beginning, really like leans into the bad boy thing of it all, but it gets a little bit deeper than that. And I like how Cole is not just a nerd stereotype in this. There's the first one in this series is very much like a nerd jock one, and I also did like that, because I do like that nerd. But Cole isn't necessarily that. He's helping Asher tutor and stuff, but he's like doing it in a sexy way and stuff. And he's pretty like forward too. He's like very initially not into the idea of hooking up with Asher, but then he's kind of like, fuck it, and he kind of makes his own moves and stuff too. I liked that. It's not just, like the normal like bad boy pursuant and the, nerd version pursued. Like, Cole's experienced and can like say what he wants and stuff, which I like. I'm also noticing Lightmates and Study Dates is the 5th seed. Game Changer's 28th. Game Changer's pretty low. It's not that surprising to me, I guess. Lightmates and Study Dates is 5. It is pretty wild though. And I think this is going to be an upset. I think I'm going to pick Game Changer over Lightmates and Study Dates. Like I said, Game Changer is a little bit boring, but I don't think Lightmates and Study Dates is the most exciting one either. Like, the main, like I said, it has a little bit more depth to it, but like the main conflict of that one is like hiding the relationship from the coach. But there's, the stakes don't seem that high with that, honestly. And am I gonna say Game Changer? Yes, I am. I've decided yes. Like I said, I think this one hit me at the right time, where I was like in the mood for like a fun thing, and then I read a fun thing and I liked it. So it worked out. Okay, so that finishes our first half of the bracket. Now we're gonna go over to the other side. Gonna scroll over here. Okay. Oh god. Okay. This is the matchup that almost made me rethink my entire seating structure for this. I do not want these two to go up against each other this early. Okay. Number 2 seed is Heated Rivalry. Heated Rivalry is about you probably watch the TV show if you're watching this, but it's about Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov. They are rivals in hockey. They were like both supposed to be really, really good players, both drafted the same year, so they kind of, went through the same stages of hockey at similar times once they started being around draft age. And they start hooking up, but they're still rivals on ice. And that's all I feel like I have to say about that. Tough Guy is about Ryan and Fabian. Ryan is the hockey player, and he's the tough guy. He is, he's an enforcer. He is there to fight dudes and throw the body around and play really, really tough. And it's taken a big toll on him. Not just physically, but like emotionally and mentally. He also has a lot of anxiety. And he gets like randomly runs across Fabian again, who he knew Fabian previously from his, I think it was his billet family when he was like in juniors or something. Kids playing junior hockey when they have to like go to a team that's they get drafted into juniors, and so they might have to play for a team that's really far away, and they'll live with a billet family who's like a family that already lives there. And Fabian was a part of that billet family, so they like knew each other as teenagers and had some chemistry then, but like nothing really, really happened. And then he meets Fabian again and starts having fun with him, and things are getting better. But it's also really tough for Fabian seeing, the toll that playing hockey takes on Ryan. And so that's kind of the main conflict of it, too. I like mentally have a ranking in my head of the Rachel Reed books, and Tough Guy is my favorite, which is a controversial opinion. Obviously, it's seated 30th here, and some people don't like it, which I cannot comprehend for the life of me. The people who get it, though, we're you and me all the way. So I'm just gonna talk about what I love about Tough Guy real quick. I think it's really interesting. I think dealing with this problem of, just being an enforcer in hockey, and that obviously takes like a really big toll on people. And Ryan's anxiety feels really like visceral, and I really connected with that. He's also really afraid of like flying, and which is kind of wild when he has a job where he has to be like flying constantly to go play away games. And I love his and Fabian's relationship, and I love how it develops. I'm like a big sucker for they knew each other previously, or especially like they knew each other as teenagers and then they get together. I love that, like it's almost like a second chance thing, but it's not really, because nothing like actually happened the first time, like they didn't even kiss or anything. So, but I like that. And Ryan's arc in this is so good. Fabian's as well, but Ryan especially. Ryan is in Heated Rivalry for like a minute. There's a few pages in it where it talks about Ryan. He's on Elia's team, I think. And even in those few pages, they're like, it's very clear. Sometimes these books do that where it's like they're setting up the next guy, but he's not really in this one that much. So they'll take like a chapter and talk about this random guy for a minute. And I knew that was happening, but I was still like, this is my guy. Like, I love him for the second I saw him, and I loved him the entire way, and I'm rooting for him so much. And now I'm going to talk about Heated Rivalry. Because this isn't clear cut. I know I said I like Tough Guy better. It's not clear cut because I love Heated Rivalry. Especially with the show recently, it's like kind of reignited made me like it more. I really, really like everything they did with the show. And if I'm going to talk about Heated Rivalry objectively as a book, the thing I don't see people talk about a lot with this book that really was something that took some points off for me reading it is the pacing of it. Pacing is super, super big for me. And by necessity of it being this book that takes place over years and years and years between these two characters who rarely see each other, the few times a year that they play each other, or they're like at the NHL awards or the All-Star game, whatever. The pacing of it is weird sometimes. It's very front loaded too, with like they meet, they hook up, they meet, they hook up, they meet, they hook up, and it's like a good natural progression of these characters, and I think that's part of the reason why people like this book so much, is it's a good representation of like a rivals to lovers thing, where they are rivals, and that tension between them feels real, in the way that it grows slowly over time also feels real. But it does mean, especially at the front, it's really loaded with some stuff, and then the back is really loaded with different stuff. And that I want to reread it. I do. Maybe my opinion will change on it rereading it, but the first time I read it, I was really kind of thrown off by that a little bit. And again, it makes sense for the story. I don't really know how you do it differently, but I mean, the show, I like when I first heard it was going to be a show, I was like, that is going to help, I think, with the pacing. I think it did. I think they still, there's still some hard stuff in there. A lot of people who were watching it and hadn't read the books, I think, had a few moments where they're like, what year is it? And what's going on? How long has it been? Whatever. But I think they just kind of breezed through it, which was fine. But Shane and Ilya obviously are a great couple too. They have really good back and forth. Ilya's so charming. I love when he shows up in the other books. But we love him most here. Shane is so great. But I'm gonna pick tough guy. I'm picking tough guy. I know, like, this is not a lot of people will agree with this decision, but the people, again, who get it. And like, you're not watching this bracket to be like, suggest Heated Rivalry to me. So it's like, whatever. I'm gonna tell you, if you read Heated Rivalry, read Tough Guy and have an open mind. God damn it. Okay. Next is another Rachel Reed book. So many Rachel Reed ones. This is not in the Game Changers universe. It's The Shots You Take by Rachel Reed. It's technically, like, Ilya is not gonna randomly show up in it. And then there's Poetry on Ice by Jesse H. Rain. Okay, this is another gonna be a really, really hard matchup. Okay, so The Shots You Take by Rachel Reed. It's about Riley and Adam. Riley and Adam used to play hockey together. Riley retired quite a while ago. Adam just retired pretty recently. And Adam goes to Riley's small town after Riley suffers like a personal tragedy, and wants to help him, wants to reconnect. When they were teammates, they were best friends, and they had also hooked up some. But there's like a lot of history between these characters, and they haven't talked in a very long time. I don't want to get too in the weeds of like everything that happened between them in the past, because I think reading that and kind of figuring out what all happened and went down between them is a really big draw of this book. But yeah, it's a second chance romance. It's some reconnecting, and yeah, that's all I'll see for the synopsis. Poetry on Ice by Jesse H. Rain is about Robbie and Ant. Robbie is traded to the team that Ant is on. They've played against each other for a while, and they have a rivalry. They have a big back and forth. They do not like each other. Robbie is not generally the type of guy to get like super riled up or violent or fight a lot, but Ant especially provokes him. And so it's them figuring out how to even like coexist and play together on the same team and on the same line. And so it's them getting more comfortable with that, and then also they start hooking up. And then part of what I really like about this book is that a lot of it is like Robbie conning Ant into a relationship. Basically, he's like the he's the softer one, I guess. In that Ant's very gruff, and he's initially very resistant to a relationship, where Robbie just like slowly over time is like, no, we're gonna date, and just kind of pulls him along in a way that I found was really fun. Okay, so I'll get more into my thoughts now, I guess. We're out of the synopses. Poetry on Ice is divisive. I'm not surprised it's like here around 18. If you go to like, I would recommend don't read the Goodreads reviews for it. Just take a moment and assess within yourself. Are you the type of person who, when you're reading sex scenes and there's some kind of dirty talk and that kind of stuff, are you the type of person to really get caught up in that word choice and be like, I don't like that. That turned me off. If so, you will not like this book, and I suggest looking elsewhere. A lot of people on Goodreads really don't like some of the stuff that's said. I like it. I think the writing in this is good in the sex scenes. I do not mind the dirty talk at all. I really like it. I think it works for these characters, and some of it's so unhinged. But in a good way, I think. I was enjoying it, and some people do. And I think outside of it, some of the descriptions I found myself I did think the writing was a little bit better than average on this one. Some other, like, I'm not really like highlighting quotes for like these books, a lot of like, descriptions of things. Usually in these, people have highlights of like, if there's a big romantic quote or whatever, but I think there was some other description stuff in here that really stood out. I also like how, with the name Poetry on Ice, it also really, there's not like a ton of hockey play in this, but you do see an evolution in like their relationship together. Just becoming more friendly with each other translates to them playing better hockey, and I really like when the hockey is part of the, it's a signifier of these character arcs and this relationship, and it's important and it matters. It's used for something other than just like a backdrop that's fun or whatever. And so I like that. What else? I think this one, both of these actually, which is why this is a really interesting matchup, is both of these really walk the line of like, there's a lot of things that happen between these people that you almost kind of worry, oh no, am I gonna root for this couple actually? Because like the shots you take, there's a lot of history between them. Adam in particular did some kind of fucked up stuff to Riley, and you're like, am I gonna want these two to get together? But it works. You root for them by the end. And the same as with Poetry on Ice, where it's like, especially at the beginning, Robbie and Ant are like physically fighting like off the ice, and you're like, am I gonna want these two to get better, like get together? This is pretty toxic. Ant in particular is like pretty obsessive about Robbie, not like in a super possessive or stalky or like dark romance-y sort of way, but like he like interprets a lot of the things Robbie does as like, oh, he's doing that to get under my skin, in a way that's like really realistic, where like Robbie is not thinking about Ant at all in that moment, or if he is, he's trying to like not piss him off, but he ends up just pissing him off more. It's really good. But they're like fighting and stuff in a way that you're like, I don't want these two to be together, and then it does work. And I think those are some of the most rewarding ones where again, there's conflict and stuff, and it's not easy sailing love at first sight from the beginning. Both of these have that. Do I have anything else to say about the shots you take? No. Some of the ink, some of the pining in there is really good. Their build up just works really well. This is a really hard one. I really like both of these. I would like both of these to move on. Can I cheat? Okay. To be honest here, Poetry on Ice was a 5-star book for me. The Shots You Take was a 4-star. I'm doing the Poetry on Ice. This is divisive, and I do not think this is like Tough Guy. I think this is a choice a lot of people would go with The Shots You Take over Poetry on Ice, but for me and my taste, it's Poetry on Ice. Again, take a moment to assess yourself. If you think you're not gonna like, I'm not even gonna quote any of it. I don't want to hear any out of context, but if you think I don't like word choice sometimes in those kinds of scenes, just steer clear and read Shots You Take instead. Okay. This is Brick Walls by L.A. Witt, and then Power Plays and Straight A's, and that's Eden Finley and Saxon James. That is the first one in the series of, we talked about line mates and study dates earlier. Brick Walls, there's some other ones by this author, but I don't think there are any ones that are like sequels, as far as I know. Okay, so Brick Walls is about two goalies, and they're Saul and Josh. So they are both coming to this team at the same time. Both have been doing really poorly lately. They were playing on different teams. Saul has a passive addiction and is an addict. He has not been playing well recently, and he gets picked up off of waivers and goes to this team. At the same time, Josh has also been doing bad, but he is an unrestricted free agent. He's signed a new contract, signs with this same team, and he had an injury. He's going through a divorce. Things are going poorly for him. And Saul and Josh are exes. So this is a second chance one. They were together previously when Saul was really in the weeds with his addiction, and so there's a lot of hurt there and a lot of things that went down between them. A lot because of Saul's addiction, which is something he's been clean for a while, but he's struggling again. And Josh has a lot of hurt feelings towards him, and this is their second chance. Power Plays and Straight A's is a college one, like Line Mates and Study Dates. It is about Foster is the hockey player in this one, and then Zach is not. He's just another college student. He's a little bit nerdy. He's been pretty sheltered. He is it's a brother's best friend one. So Foster's best friend's brother is Zach, and his best friend tells him, watch out for my brother Zach. He's a little bit sheltered, and he's going to this new school kind of far away from me, and we're twin brothers. We've kind of always been together. Look out for him. And Foster takes that real seriously. Yeah, it's like a nerd jock one. We'll get into it. Power Plays and Straight A's doesn't have a lot of drama or plot or anything. It's the hockey in it does matter. Foster takes it seriously and wants to get a championship, and don't remember what all is happening with him in terms of playing in the NHL, but no, I don't really remember. But he does take hockey seriously. And Zach has his own ambitions that I don't remember super well. Okay, clearly this one didn't stick out that well to me. And then Brick Walls I read, this is one of the ones I read 3 years ago when I had a spurt of reading ones 3 years ago, so some of the details also are lost on me. This is one I really do want to reread, because I think it really has a lot of depth to it, and is really dealing with serious stuff. I think it really, really takes on addiction a lot. It really, really talks about it a lot, and the toll it has on people and their loved ones, and how it's a disease that makes you do awful things to the people you love. And I think it's another one like Poetry on Ice and The Shots You Take, where you're kind of wondering, man, these people have so much baggage between them and so much hurt they've kind of, they've caused each other even, should they be together. And then you end up rooting for them, and that feels even more rewarding. So I think, again, I want to reread Brick Walls so I, can remember more of it, but I think I'm going to pick Brick Walls over it, because I think, generally speaking, I will pick one that has, a plot and more to it than one that is kind of more light and doesn't have a lot of conflict or anything. Generally speaking, I'll pick that one over the other. Just kind of my taste. I know some people, like a fluffier sort of experience. Okay, The Husband Game by Brigham Vaughn, and then Double Shifting that's Michaela Gray down there. Okay, so this is kind of a matchup of the fake marriage ones. The Husband Game is it's about Dustin and Charlie. Dustin is the hockey player here, and Charlie used to be an ice skater. Like a professional ice skater, and competed in the Olympics and stuff, and was really well known and successful. But he's retired now. They are in Vegas. They get drunk. They get married. They previously know each other a little bit. There's this is like its own series, but there are the ones written by this author that are also in the same world. I did not read those ones, and so there's a little bit of like, I think in another book these two might have met previously. They don't know each other super well. And you get a little bit of setup for that in kind of the wider world, but there was clearly some stuff I was missing by not have read another series. But they know each other a little bit, and they get married in Vegas, and then continue to kind of fake this relationship, at least partially because Dustin is really involved in trying to change the culture around hockey, and in doing so doesn't want like, as part of creating this like new code of conduct for hockey players, and like doesn't want to be viewed as like really problematic himself by being like really really irresponsible and getting super drunk and getting married to someone he barely knows. And so they'll like, will fake it for a certain amount of time. And Charlie's able to do that because he's retired from ice skating and is like working on becoming like an interior designer, I believe. And then Double Shifting is about Rory and Dima. Rory and Dima play on the same team. They've been best friends for a long time, and Rory has just been like madly in love with Dima the whole time, but is like, Dima doesn't want to be with me. He's just been really pining a lot. And then Dima gets injured in a game and gets amnesia. So it's an amnesia one. And then Rory, in order to be able to go in and see him, says, "That's my husband." And then he's allowed to go in and see Dima in the hospital. And then they have their own reason for why they have to kind of fake having been married for a while that I'm not gonna get into, I don't think. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it. But yeah, no, I don't want to say anything more about what happens in it. Okay, so these are two, kind of similar things. We'll talk about the husband game. The husband game is 550 pages. And if you would have told me a romance book is 550 pages, I would say there's no reason for it to be that long. And granted, it is a little longer than it needs to be, but I was still like hooked, and I was still really into it. Definitely some of it like could have been cut, but I was like so into it I didn't care. I really like Dustin and Charlie. It really deals with some heavy stuff, and it deals with it well, and I'm glad that it did take some time to deal with that. Charlie has an eating disorder from when he was an ice skater, and is something that is really really affects him, and is talked about a lot in here. And I think it's handled really well, and I love they're so supportive of each other. It's just so good. There's not a lot of like, Charlie's not really ice skating in this, and there's not a lot of Dustin playing hockey in it, although his like teammates do matter. Even like, they're clearly getting set up for their own books in this series, but like also do kind of matter to this. I like how, like I said, there's not a lot of hockey play, but like hockey does clearly matter to Dustin. He is really cares about being a good leader and being a good example and being there for his teammates, and this like making hockey better. So I do love him for that. I wish there were more men like him more hockey players like him in real life. And they have a great chemistry. They have a great back and forth. Charlie's has his own struggles, but he's also can be really really confident, really flirty, and really fun, and Dustin's just really really sweet and really enamored by him. It's good. Yes. And then Double Shifting, I really love like a best friends to lovers, like they've been best friends forever. They've been pining over each other sort of thing. There's a little bit of like a misunderstanding sort of thing in this one. So if like that's something that you're really sensitive to and will really bother you, if like you could have had one conversation and kind of figured this one thing out, maybe this one's not the one for you. Or if you think Amnesia's too cheesy. Although I'm fine with it in this one. It's not super soap opera-y. Well, maybe a little bit. Okay, maybe a little bit it is. What else about this one? Yeah, it ends really, really fast. That's maybe my biggest thing with this. It's like, it really, some of the Michaela Gray ones in general really just wrap it up. They're done. And so I wanted more of them being together, especially after this like long lead up of they've both been pining for a long time. And I reread Double Shifting this year. I had read it previously, read it again. It has some cute details in it. I think I'm gonna pick the husband game though over it. I am. I really like all the stuff this one's tackles. It really feels like it's the two of them are fun together, but they're also dealing with some serious stuff together. I really like, seeing these couples go through something together, and it makes them stronger, and they come out the stronger together on the other side of it. And I think that's a good one for that. So. Okay, next is the Head Game by Brigham Vaughn. So that's the second one in the series with the husband game. And then Common Goal by Rachel Reed. Another Rachel Reed. All right, the Head Game is about Nico. He's like a really cocky, loud, talks a lot, pushes a lot of buttons, hockey player. And he has a little bit of a back and forth with this referee whose name is August. And, August is a referee, so he's very like by the book kind of person. They're a little bit back and forth, and they end up hooking up once, I believe. And shortly after that, during a game, Nico gets hurt. He gets hit in the head. And then August does the classic thing of what happened in Double Shifting, basically, of go to the hospital and be like, that's my fiance, so we can go in and see him and make sure he's okay. Nico's not okay. A lot of this book is him dealing with medical issues. And he does wake up and he has a little bit of amnesia, so he's like, you're my fiance, huh? And August kind of keeps going along with the lie for a little bit. He like meets Nico's parents and everything. It's a lot. He's gotten himself into quite the situation. It takes quite a while to kind of set that premise up. So I won't talk about too much more than that. Common Goal. It's another one in the Game Changers universe. It is who's Eric is the goalie in it. He's like older, he's a veteran, he's like close to retirement. Like he kind of knows retirement's coming up for him. And then Kyle is a bartender. If you watch the show Heated Rivalry, I was cracking up because anytime they're in that gay bar, they always go, give us the remote, Kyle. Hi, Kyle. And they're just like saying Kyle so much. I'm like, yeah, I know that's Kyle. Like, we're gonna do Common Goal one day. I understand. It's Kyle. That's Kyle, in case you didn't know. So he's a bartender. He meets Eric. Kyle has kind of previously had a lot of things for older guys. He's trying not to fall into his previous habits because he's had like some problems in the past with being with older men, and some things that have gone wrong. But he's still really drawn to Eric, and Eric is kind of like, especially with things that have happened in the Game Changer universe recently, kind of like, I'm gonna explore my bisexuality. And so Kyle kind of helps him out a little bit in figuring that out. And obviously stuff blossoms between them. Kyle's real flirty, but also at the same time, like, I shouldn't do this because I have a problem where I'm into older men and it becomes a problem. So this is an age gap one. We'll just get into it now. This is an age gap one, but I'm not like a big age gap person, but this doesn't feel like an age gap one a lot of the times in a good way, in that when they're talking, like, you forget that there's an age gap between them. They're like their back and forth like has them on similar levels, and also they kind of have this thing of like Kyle is younger than Eric, but like teaching Eric a lot about how to be more open in his sexuality. And so it doesn't feel like super mismatched in like any sort of power balance. They feel they're on they're not on completely mismatched footing on everything, which I like that. I think Kyle's really sweet and sweet might not be the right word. It's interesting them going through those things. So their age gap is one of the big problems of this. Kyle's kind of holding back on himself. Eric's still kind of figuring out himself. This one doesn't super stand out to me. There's some of the stuff in it I would have liked to go into more with a little bit. It's all right. It's a good one. And then the head game is, man, it's right after double shifting. It's got the similarities to double shifting with the amnesia and everything. But I think it's probably a similar length to the husband game, but I don't think it earns that length as much. Like I kind of alluded to in my synopsis, I think it takes a really long time kind of setting up the premise. And then I don't know, mild spoilers, I guess. All of this is mild spoilers. I'm trying not to spoil these books for you, but like you're gonna know more than reading the synopsis on Goodreads would give you, because I'm gonna talk about things that happen in. Nico doesn't super care that August pretended to be his fiance. It's like this thing, like August is really nervous about it, and he's again like meeting Nico's parents and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I'm being introduced as your fiance. This is a lot. I really got myself into it." And then Nico's just kind of like, cool, bro. He's like, he does not care. It's like, oh my god, there's a lot of building up this premise. Obviously, there's some ramifications for August with his job, and I did that was a little bit more interesting. Like August has to figure out kind of what's next for him in that. And they're like a good opposites attract sort of thing. I think they work well. Nico's going through a lot, and so like I don't know, August really has to be there for him through some really tough shit. This also does kind of get in the weeds with some stuff, but like also some of the things in it doesn't super get into. I have some notes here about like some of the issues with like Nico. Seems really, really cocky and carefree and really, really self-confident, but it's a little bit a show. And he has some like real insecurity about his looks, particularly with he has a head injury and he like gets part of his hair shaved and stuff. And he's really, really insecure about how he looks like that. He really feels like a lot of his value as a person comes from how good he looks. And it doesn't dig into that as much as I would like. I feel like that was a real missed opportunity. Gosh. I am surprised that this one is rated third. It is higher than the husband game. I do not like him. I like the husband game more. Which maybe I shouldn't say, because maybe they'll have to go against each other later in the bracket. This is a tough one for me, because not because I love both of these so much, but because I feel pretty, like, they're good. They're both good. Let me try to see if I rated them differently in, okay, I gave the head game a 3.5. I'm not saying my stars for a lot of these, but I will for some of them. 3.5 for head game, and it was a 3 for common goal. I think I'm gonna do that, because common goal I read a little bit more further back, but I also, like, not that much stood out to me about it. They're kind of dealing with the same stuff a lot, and I have, like, in my notes, I didn't get bored of it as I was reading it, but not much sticks out to me from it, so I'm gonna go with the head game in that one. Next is Goal Lines and First Times. This is another one in that college universe one. And that's by Eden Finley and Saxon James. And then Goalie Tandem. This is, so Michaela, I didn't mention this earlier, but Michaela Gray also went by the name as Tierney Rose for some of these books. So it's Michaela Gray, but as Tierney Rose. Or vice versa, I don't know. This Goalie Tandem. Okay, so with Goal Lines and First Times, it's the third one in this college hockey series. If you remember from Power Plays and Straight A's that I talked about earlier, Foster was the hockey player in that. His brother is Seth. Seth doesn't play hockey. And Foster's boyfriend in that first one is Zach, and Zach's best friend is Seth. So Seth is in this one. He's related to Zach and Foster from the first one. One of them is his brother, one of them is his best friend. They're together, and Seth is kind of like, well, what the hell do I do now? Seth has, it's interesting. The way it's handled is interesting. People always kind of assume, like, Seth is gay or something. he's like really tried to make it work with a lot of girlfriends, and it doesn't. And people just kind of, I thought it was interesting the way that people, you know, assume this about him. So he decides, fuck it, my last girlfriend just broke up with me again. I've been resistant to this. I'm gonna go on a gay dating app, and I'm gonna talk to some guys. He ends up talking to this one guy, who his name is Cohen. He's on the app under a fake name. They're both on the app under a fake name. Cohen goes on the gay dating app. He is a teammate of Foster's, so he also plays for that college hockey team. And Seth doesn't go to that school. He goes to a different school. But Cohen has just kind of had it recently pointed out to him that hey, maybe you're into dudes. You like had made out with guys in the past and stuff. Maybe that means you're into dudes, dude. And she's like, well, okay, I'll go. He's like, he doesn't really have a crisis about it or anything. He's like, all right, I'll go on a gay dating app, whatever. And the two of them end up talking, and they end up talking for a really long time. Throughout this, Seth kind of figures out that he's like demisexual, so he has to have a strong relationship with somebody that is like he feels close to someone before he's able to like feel like sexual attraction for them. And so having this kind of buffer of like they don't know who each other are, they don't even really exchange pictures or anything, and them just talking for a really long time is kind of a good way for him to feel comfortable about that. You know, if they did exchange pictures or real names, they also would know who each other were, because that is his brother's teammate, and he's like met him before, like in passing, barely. Yeah, so that's kind of how their relationship develops, and it's like, are they ever gonna actually meet up, sort of thing. Goalie tandem is about two goalies. It's another one about two goalies. Theo is older. He's a veteran. He's like also kind of nearing retirement. And he just wants to go out still being the starting goalie, basically. But there's this new rookie goalie, and his name is Nicholas. And Nicholas has always really, really looked up to Theo. Like, Theo is his hero, like, poster on his wall when he was a kid, sort of thing. And Nicholas is really talented as a goalie, and Theo's just kind of worried that Nicholas is going to take his spot as the starting goaltender. But also does kind of want to take him under his wing a little bit, and they end up living together. Like, Nicholas ends up moving in to kind of have him as a mentor. And Theo also has this thing where he is pretty gruff, and not a lot of his teammates like him very much. He has like one guy on the team who's his friend, basically, and a lot of the younger guys are really, really afraid of him, basically. They do not really talk to him. But Nicholas is not like that. He, like I said, really looks up to him, and they end up living together, and Nicholas is super polite and wants to be helpful, and he's easygoing, but he wants to impress Theo. And he wants to break through his like outer shell, sort of thing. And he does end up doing that over time, kind of. To kind of get into my thoughts on that more, I don't think the character arcs on this are handled as well as they could be. I think it's set up really well. I really like this idea of kind of having this player who's like maybe, I don't know how jaded is the right word, but he's no, jaded probably is the right word. He's kind of like reaching the end of his, I don't think he's like, I'm not gonna win a Stanley Cup, but I just want to go out playing well, and doesn't really super care about, he does kind of care. That's the thing, is he kind of cares a little bit that the younger guys on the team are afraid of him. And it does kind of come up in his relationship with Nicholas, where like Nicholas is really close to these younger guys because he's also a younger guy, and you know, they like playing video games and whatever together. And Theo's kind of insecure about that, of like, I don't really know how to interact with these guys. And I don't think that full character arc really pays off in a way that I would have liked it to. I think it would have been interesting to kind of see like this old dog can learn some new tricks, and that new trick is being nice to young kids. I think it's one of those things where like the guy didn't really change. He just kind of found one person who he'll be nicer to. You know, like those things are like, oh, girl got the guy to change, but he didn't really change. He's just like nice to his girlfriend sometimes, and he's kind of mean to everyone else still. It's kind of what it feels like. I think if that would have paid off, I would have liked it a lot better. I like their back and forth. You know, it's the grumpy cat, golden retriever sort of thing, but yeah. And this is another one. I think Michaela Gray books have this sometimes. The ending's also pretty abrupt, so that's another bummer for me. Goal lines and first times. I like having a demisexual character. Seth's kind of figuring himself out. I kind of relate to this like struggle of like other people around you just kind of assume what you are, and it's really frustrating because you're still kind of figuring out who you are yourself, and other people are like, oh, I know. It's like, okay, well, shut up, baby. So I really like that about this. It's got like a slow build up. I think one of the things some people don't like about this one is Cohen in particular, the way he's described. He's just kind of treated as like, oh, stupid boy, he's so dumb, and everyone just kind of says he's dumb, and it's never really dealt with in a way that's like, hey guys, that kind of hurts my feelings a little bit or anything. Everyone just keeps calling him stupid all the time. And I think that that's tough for some people to read. He's not like stupid. He's like a little bit oblivious and kind of naive in his own world a little bit, but like I wouldn't call him dumb, really. He's very nice. He's a very nice boy. This is one where I don't feel particularly strongly about either of these. I think so if I'm really thinking about character arcs, I think goal lines and first times it pays off more, because I really do with maybe, like I just said, maybe not so much with Cohen, because some of his problems are kind of his insecurity around everyone just kind of always thinks he's stupid. And I don't know if that is fully paid off, like I said, but I think Seth has a good character arc. I think he's the best character arc out of any of the characters in either of these books. And it's rewarding to kind of see him figure out who he is and kind of set his own boundaries, and things work out for him. So I'm gonna go with that one, pretty much mostly for Seth's character arc. Okay, next is Unrivaled by Ashlyn Kane and Morgan James, and then Roughing by Michaela Gray. Okay, so Unrivaled is about Grady and Max. They're on different teams. As the title would suggest, they're rivals. They've like fought before. Grady in particular, like Max gets under his skin a little bit. Max to try particularly hard to do that, but it's easy, I guess. They are both on Grindr, and they both see the other person on there, and they both go. Each of them independently goes, obviously that's not really him. That's someone who took his pictures and is pretending to be him. I'm gonna go meet up with him and expose this guy. And then they go meet up, and it actually is that other person, and they're both like, what the fuck? And then they hook up. Then from there, they kind of talk some more. Max kind of says he'll help Grady get some more dates, because he's kind of newer to dating men. And then after a while, Max is like, I don't want to do that. I want you for myself. And it's another one where this one I think is maybe the most similar to Poetry on Ice, but has less of, if you thought Poetry on Ice sounded interesting, but were kind of turned off about what I said about some of the dirty talk in it, maybe read Unrivaled. Yeah, I think that might be an easier one for you. I don't like it as much as Poetry on Ice. We'll get into why in a moment. I'll talk about Roughing first. Roughing by Michaela Gray is about there is this hockey player who's like one of the best. Everyone calls him Saint. He's one of the best players in the league, maybe the best. He's super, super talented. He's really, really focused. He's the captain of his team. Kind of all he cares about is hockey. If you've watched Heated Rivalry, he reads very, very Shane. I think this maybe was, I don't even know if it was before Heated Rivalry or not. It's not like in a copying sort of way. It's like they're just similar kind of character types. And then there's this guy who's new to his team, Carmine. Carmine is an enforcer, and Saint in particular just kind of sees him as like, oh, he's just a goon. He just fights people. I don't even really want him on my team. We need to win. We need to win in the playoffs. We need to win the Stanley Cup. But Carmine is like a good role player, and he really knows like I'm there to protect guys who have more talent than me, honestly, and guys like Saint. And Carmine's just very nice and very sweet and super cool and really funny, and I love him. I think he's great. But Saint is resistant to have him on the team at first. He doesn't really see as much depth to Carmine and what he can bring on ice in particular. But kind of as captain, he gets, kind of looped into having Carmine stay in his home, which is really, really hard for him. Saint he has really, really strict routines and things have to be a certain way. And so having someone live in his home and like his own private space is really, really stressful for him. But they bond from there. So Unrivaled, like I said, if you thought Poetry on Ice sounded interesting, maybe this is a good one for you to read. If there's some other stuff you think you might not like about Poetry on Ice, it also, it's another Rivals to Lovers one. I think that has a good natural progression to it. Grady in particular, like you really get, it's like the Grumpy Sunshine one, another one. Like Grady is the grumpy one, Max is the more sunshiny one. But you really get where Grady's coming from and like some of his baggage and why he is a little bit more closed off, and Max is really kind of accepting of that and very much like we're gonna be together. It's gonna work out in a way that I really liked. Like it leads to a good natural progression of again Grady being more closed off and kind of opening up more, but it doesn't feel super hurtful to Max because he's pretty patient about it. Pretty, self-assured in what he wants. And Roughing is one, it's another one of those ones I read like 3 years ago. I would like to reread Roughing. I think, I don't remember like a ton of details about the plot. I think it's like a pretty good slow burny one. I think, maybe the thing that like I remember the most and stands out to me is like a lot of the stuff that Saint deals with in this. I don't think he's like diagnosed with anything, but he's also like Shane in Heated Rivalry in that he reads as autistic. He has hard, like I said earlier, like hard time with adjustments to his routines, and he just kind of he reads in similar way to some other attributes that Shane has. And I think it's interesting seeing him, like I said, I don't even remember if they like say anything directly about, I don't think he's like diagnosed or anything, but like him kind of dealing with that, and I enjoy reading that. It's hard when I remember Roughing not as well as I remember Unrivaled, just because how long it's been. Unrivaled has some really cute moments too that I do also remember. I think I have to go Unrivaled. I want to reread Roughing, and it could be Roughing in a world where I had read it more recently, because I think if I had read Unrivaled the same amount of time ago, I probably would forget as much. But there's some cute stuff I remember in Unrivaled too. I think it's good. All right. Oh my god, we're almost out of the first round, and then things will move a little quicker because I'm not going to go through synopses anymore. Those are really, those take up some time, huh? Okay, so Role Model by Rachel Reed, and then Soft Hands by E.M. Lindsay. Okay, Role Model is about Troy. Troy is a hockey player who has been kind of a scumbag. He just kind of goes along with there's this other player who was on his team, Dallas, who is the worst and super homophobic and misogynistic and terrible. And Troy was just kind of his buddy and just kind of went along with it until some women come forward and say that they were assaulted by Dallas, and that's when Troy kind of speaks out against him finally. And then Troy gets traded to another team, which is the Ottawa Centaurs. On that team, they have a social media manager, and his name is Harris. And Harris is out and proud and super bubbly and friendly and cool and nice. So this is like it's a redemption arc for Troy, who, yeah, like I said, has recently just kind of been a scumbag who was cool with other scumbags being scumbags and has just kind of had enough of it and is wanting to become better in this new team. Okay, Soft Hands there are 3 people involved in this. This is about Nolan is not a professional hockey player. He was set to become a professional hockey player and then had an injury. And is no longer on that course. He meets Marco and Luca, who are both professional hockey players. They've been best friends forever. They're like really, really in each other's pockets. The beginning of the book really, really starts with the 2 of them, and they, yeah, have been best friends forever, and they have some pining between them, and then get together, and they also kind of know Nolan a little bit, and like him too. And Nolan is a romantic, and so he really struggles with, he really has it's said a lot that he has a strong sense of who he is and what he wants and everything. Yeah, I'm gonna get into it. So, Soft Hands I don't think is fun. I don't think it's fun at all. I think, I don't know why we can't have a book with like an aromantic character that is fun. It is not fun in this. It is, I'm like on board from the start. I'm like, yeah, I understand. This is good and fine and whatever. And then just like over explains a million times Nolan's deal. To the point where it wraps back around to being confusing. I wasn't confused at the start, and then you said too much, and now I am confused. I don't understand. You said too many words, and now I don't understand what Nolan is to Marco and Luca anymore. I don't get it. I could have gotten it, but you made it confusing. Like, you overdid it. So like I said, I like the beginning because I love a best friends pining getting together, but that it happens and then they get together real fast in a way that feels weird. They have like one kind of half conversation and then they're together and then that's like rock solid. And then the whole time it's just miserable them being like, well, we want to have Nolan but we can't. And I just would have I really would have I think I think this is book 2 in a series. I did not read the first one. I refuse to read the first one now. I think the 3 of them, like, Luca and Marco had met Nolan in that previous book. Maybe there's some more of, like, seeing them kind of becoming friends a little bit in that. I would have appreciated that. So it would have, especially in this situation, where it would have felt like they had a stronger foundation of knowing each other before we kind of get into this, this scenario that's, like, a little bit murky and, again, over-explained and therefore murkier. So I wanted to see that they genuinely like spending time with each other or something. There's some moments in this where you get that, but I just don't. It's not that great. I wanted more after they all got together because then I wanted to kind of understand what that dynamic was like, but we don't really get much of that. Unfortunately, this is going to be a tough matchup because for all the bad things I said about Soft Hands, I don't like Role Model very much. It's like 6 on here. A lot of people really, really like Role Model a lot. A lot of the people who are reading a lot of the Game Changer ones really pick this one out as one they like. I don't get it. The more I think about this one, the less I like it, honestly, which is unfortunate. So I really love this setup. I really love this idea of a redemption arc I think it's really important because I want hockey to get better and more welcoming to everyone. It isn't for everyone. Hockey isn't for everyone, but it should be for everyone. You know, we don't treat it like it is for everyone, obviously, and I want more people to do that. And I want this kind of redemption arc. I don't think it works as well as it needs to in this. And I'll talk about that and then I'll talk about the relationship between these 2 characters. So, I talked about in the synopsis, the main setup for this is women came forward as being assaulted by Dallas, and the league and that team are just kind of content to just kind of sweep it under the rug and just kind of move on. And Troy is gonna speak up and not okay with that. Thank Christ for that. It's such a tiny thing, but you know it's the bare minimum. But and for that being the big part of it, there's no women in this book. There's not a woman character who's an actual character. She doesn't exist here. I think that's frustrating. That's not even the main propulsive force of my grudge against this, but again, when I think about it more, I think that's that feels like it doesn't do his arc full service. There's some things he does in this to kind of contribute to his arc. I don't think it's enough, honestly. I don't fully feel like I don't dislike Troy. I like Troy as a character and stuff, but if like you really, really wanted to give him a good redemption, I don't think he does enough by the end. There's no like confrontation with Dallas that I felt was satisfying. And there's no women. So I think probably a woman needed to be involved in this in order for it to be good. But so then putting that kind of aside, talking about the relationship, this one doesn't connect for me. I can't totally really say why. I wanted it to. I love this idea of like Harris is super bubbly and outgoing. Troy is not as much, clearly. And Harris is super, super comfortable with who he is. I like how he's kind of like, I don't know, like a bigger guy but not but like feels pretty comfortable with himself. And he's kind of goofy, and he's got this goofy family that he loves so much, and he feels like he has a really rich, full life. I love all of those things. And I theoretically would like those two together. I think a lot of their conversations, they would be having a conversation, and I'd be like, all right, cool, they're having a normal conversation, whatever. And then one of them would be like, oh my god, I just think he's so hot. I want to tear him apart. And I'd be like, you do? Like, I was not sensing that chemistry when they're talking. It was not clicking for me. So it could click for you. It clearly does for a lot of people, because a lot of people really like this one. It did not for me, unfortunately. Again, because I really, really like Harris, and I want to like Troy a lot. And I don't even dislike him. Who moves forward here? Okay, so like I said, this is tough. I'm gonna pick role model over soft hands, because even though I did rant a lot about role model, especially when I first read it, I think soft hands upset me more, honestly. Well, these clearly kind of upset me a little bit, which is kind of crazy for like a gay hockey romance to like be upsetting. So we did the first round of this, so exciting. Okay, like I said, we're gonna go back to the top. And like I said, it's we're not going through synopses anymore. You should know what these are about by now, even though I said a million white boy names and it's hard to keep track of. Dear God. All right, we're just gonna play it out from here. So next is the rest of the story by Tal Bauer versus Off the Ice by Michaela Gray. So again, I'm not going through the synopses of these, but the rest of the story, I really like about, this guy coming to this team, really trying to help them make it better. There's a lot of external drama in it. Off the Ice also has a lot of, tough things that they're dealing with. But I think the rest of the story is really memorable to me. I reread parts of it. I think about parts of it a lot. I think it's pretty easily, for this one, it's the rest of the story. Off the Ice put up a fight more than a lot of other ones would have, though. Okay, next is the other Tal Bauer book, Gravity, and Let's Do This by Lauren Lee. If you remember what I said earlier, I think it's pretty easily Gravity for this one. Let's Do This is not the most memorable one on here. I've read it twice. I didn't really remember. Like, in reading it the second time, I kind of forgot a bunch of stuff about that I had read it the first time. Gravity, again, is another one I return to a lot. I think about a lot. Pretty memorable. And I love pining in it. I love these characters. I just want Bryce to be happy. I want both of them to be happy together. And I think Tal Bauer those two are going to go against each other. I think Talbot is a really good writer. I wish he would write more gay hockey romance. I believe those are the only two. Okay, this one's more interesting. The Legend Next Door and Zero Pucks. Interesting. So the Legend Next Door, Ben's this like retired hockey player. It has a really cute moment I'm thinking about with the two of them after the first time they kind of hook up, where Jeremiah is a little bit insecure about it, and Ben is really, really reassuring and really sweet, and kind of like calls back to like a previous conversation they had in a way that like makes Jeremiah feel really secure. I think is really, really sweet. And in Zero Pucks, I mean, Tucker and Amadeo have a really good back and forth too, and also really care about supporting each other. I kind of feel like, depending on the day, it could go differently. What am I thinking about right now? I'm thinking about the sex scenes in Legend Next Door are good. I'm thinking about there's not a ton of external conflict to that one, but there is in Zero Pucks. There is this thing where like Amadeo's ex-boyfriend is abusive, and there's like payoff to that. It's pretty cheesy though. The dialogue on that is a little bit cringe. The dialogue in general in that book can be a little bit cringe, but I also think some people would say that about the Jesse Adrian book. Less so than Poetry on Ice. Ooh, tough one. I'm gonna go The Legend Next Door. I think my heart says that, but it's hard. Am I really doing this? I already copied it. Do I have to paste it? Yes, I'm going with that. Hard matchup there. Literally could have gone either way. Game Changer versus Pucked Up. So, I really like in Pucked Up, Bowden. There's more emotional depth to the characters in Pucked Up. Like, they're dealing with some more serious stuff. Not that, like, Scott's journey to, he's having a hard time. Him and Kip are having a hard time hiding their relationship, but Scott feels like he absolutely cannot come out. And Kip has a hard time with that. That's clearly, like, that's some serious stuff. But Pucked Up, like, Bowden is really trying to get into the Paralympics after he has some really serious baggage with like his family not really respecting him as a disabled athlete, and he has like some pretty serious anger issues, honestly. And Hugo's dealing like grieving his husband, and this is another tough one because very different tonally. Like you said, Bowden is really angry for a lot of Pucked Up. It's not like the easiest, breeziest read in the world. And Game Changer is very easy, breezy, beautiful. So I think, honestly, like, would depend on kind of the mood you're in, what you might want to read. But I do have to pick a winner between these two. And I'm going to pick... I think I said it before, I'm probably, just in general, my taste, I'm going to lean towards the one that has a little bit more depth or plot to it. I find that more interesting in romance. I totally understand if, like, you want a romance that feels good, has, you prioritize, it feels good, it's a happy ending, things are, again, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. But I think, just my taste, I like a little bit more drama. So, we're gonna go Pucked Up. We're gonna go back in. So, ooh, this is another hard one. This is another one where the seating is biting me in the ass. Tough Guy versus Poetry on Ice. These are both 5 stars for me. These are both 5-star books. Shit. Okay. I love, like, it's gotta be, like, a dead heat between, like, how much I love these relationships. Because Fabian and Ryan have that real, like, seemingly opposite dynamic, and they have this like history of knowing each other previously, and Fabian's just really wants the best for Ryan, and Ryan's dealing with a lot of anxiety and stuff, and yeah, it's probably a dead heat with their relationship in Poetry on Ice, because the two of them are like, they butt heads so much, but you're rooting for them so much by the end. Okay, I think what might be my deciding factor in this. So think about me. For 5-star books, generally, a thing can only kind of be a 5-star if in my mind if I'm thinking about it a lot after the fact. If it's something I return to, I can't just kind of like close the book and be like, that was fantastic, and then just kind of like forget about it. Being memorable is really, really important to my high ratings, and so both of these have 5s, and so both of these like did achieve that in some level. But I think Poetry on Ice is one that I think about more and I return back to more, and things stick out more to me. I think again this is a divisive choice. I think that's the criteria I have to go on because it's so dead set on like I find these plots different enough and interesting enough. I think the hockey is important in both of these in different ways. Like it's important to it's affecting Ryan's life honestly in like kind of a bad way, but it is like integral to who he is, and he is just trying to figure out his life with it, and it's integral to Poetry on Ice and these two players playing together and showing their chemistry developing. So it's really equal in their relationships, in kind of the hockey stuff, and feeling like they have lives outside of it. I mean, in Tough Guy, Ryan doesn't, and that's part of the point, is like he doesn't have much of a life outside of it. Fabian feels like he has a full life. Two characters in Poetry on Ice kind of, you know, they don't have like a ton of like friends and stuff that are kind of built out, but they have like, you know, histories and stuff that feel real, I think. So I think I have to go with that. I think the memorability of it kind of has to be my deciding factor here. I think that's kind of the only way to go. If I was going, like, so maybe I didn't establish this well in the beginning, but I'm going my taste for this over kind of what I think the crowd pleasers are, which I think makes sense because otherwise I would just go with the Goodreads ranking, wouldn't I? So I think Poetry on Ice is a divisive one, but I like it, so I'm picking it. Ooh, this is interesting. Brick Walls and the Husband Game. So this is another one where like really similar strengths to these two, in that Brick Walls and the Husband Game really both kind of deal with serious, deeper things. They're both longer and take the time to really delve into those issues. Brick Walls with addiction, and the Husband Game, I mean, like primarily like the heaviest thing there is Charlie's eating disorder. I really want to reread Brick Walls. Again, it was one I had read less recently. So let's think about these things. So the hockey in it. The hockey in it matters. Like, it's really set up in Brick Walls that these two goalies are not doing well in life, personal lives, or playing wise. And so it's really important to them that they are better. And I think having a goalie tandem is really interesting for these books because you are, like, more so than anyone else on a hockey roster, you two are directly competing. And so I like goalie tandems where like they're supportive of each other. And so it does kind of come around into them being that. And so I like that aspect of it. Hockey wise for the Husband Game, like I said, doesn't really deal a lot with like the play or anything, but like it's really, really important to Dustin. He takes being captain really, really seriously. And you know, there are like parts in the books where he's helping out his teammates and stuff that I really like, and I think a lot of these don't have enough of. Sometimes when they're captain, it feels like perfunctory, and it does not in this one. That's for sure. It's a big part of Dustin's identity and like stuff he does. I'm gonna pick Husband Game. I think part of it is again, those things I just discussed were really similar. They're really uneven playing field with that, but I think it's helped by me having read it more recently, honestly. And I think relationship wise, maybe I root for Dustin and Charlie. I like Dustin and Charlie just a little bit more. You know, they're in Brick Walls, they're going through they've had some really serious stuff they've gone through in their past. They have a lot of baggage, but they also have like a lot of history that's really important. And Dustin and Charlie in this one, I just like Dustin, like, kind of showing Charlie he can take care of him and help him and support him and be there for them. And Charlie doing that for Dustin as well. I think it's really, really sweet. I think their relationship is built up in a really good way. So I'm gonna pick that. Okay, the Head Game and Goal Lines and First Times. My initial instinct is to go Goal Lines and First Times, even though that's not one I would, like, say off the bat I super, super love. Let me think about this for a second. I'm not really wowed by the Head Game. Again, like I talked about earlier, there's some like serious stuff in there that I wish some of it was talked about more. And again, this one beat out Goalie's fandom is because Seth's character arc and that really resonated for me, and I felt it was handled well and was really satisfying. I think that was like the most satisfying thing out of anything in the head game either. So that might make me, I think it's gonna make me win it out over the head game. Like I said, some of the conflict stuff in the head game just kind of doesn't end up being a conflict. Feels like in goal lines and first times, at least the characters in it like care about what's happening. And in the head game, like Nico's like checked out. I don't know. All right, this is the last one of this round. Unrivaled and role model. Okay. So I said a lot of shit about role model last round. And you might think there's a but coming in that sentence, but I don't think there is. I think Unrivaled's gonna win here. I don't have problems with Unrivaled, really. It's, like, not the craziest memorable one. I like these two characters together. I like how their relationship develops. I like the baggage that Grady brings, and I like the fun that Max brings, and I like them together, and I'm rooting for them as a couple, and so if we're going off of some of the criteria I've been talking about in this round, like the romance of this one wins out over role model, because I just don't feel the chemistry of the characters in role model as much. And you know, the hockey of it all, it's a good question, because Unrivaled, it's not, I don't like remember it doesn't super stick out to me, any hockey related stuff. I mean, they play against each other and they are rivals on the ice, so that like plays into it a little bit, but I don't really remember anything super specific from that. And in role model, also something I didn't discuss about role model, and I had in my notes from like when I first read it, is I really feel like Harris is the social media manager, and him being that is like really underutilized in the book. Like I feel like you could have had more social media fun stuff. I think it's, I don't know, I think some of the stuff social media managers force hockey players to do is fun. You could have had more fun with that. It's in there a little bit, and social media kind of becomes part of Troy's redemption arc, and then he's posting more like sympathetic stuff for the people who are speaking out against or who are sexual assault survivors. But that didn't really resonate with me, because I don't really care. Posting something isn't doing anything, honestly. He's like sharing more resources about sexual assault and stuff, but that doesn't impress me much. So I'm going Unrivaled. I like this couple better. That's kind of where they win. And I clearly have problems with role model. So, all right, we're zooming out again. Don't get dizzy. What a beautiful bracket. Okay. So this is the final 8. Final 8. And then we're going to go to final 4. I'll zoom out again. We'll eventually pick a winner of this freaking sucker. The Talbauers are against each other. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. These are both 5-star books in my mind. These are 2 of my favorites. I love these. Okay. I love both of these couples. I love how Talbauer writes the pining. I think a lot of these don't hit on the pining for me. I want some pining. I want some angst. I want them to be like, I want to be with them so badly. The yearning. I want that. Talbauer writes that very well. I think he does it well in both of these. But I think in the rest of the story, it's really good. The rest of the story also has something that I haven't discussed yet, which is a lot of these are dual POV. The rest of the story is not, which I think is kind of a divisive thing. A lot of people want both the POVs of both of the characters in it. They want to understand both of them. The rest of the story does not have Shay's perspective. Shay is the one who is the younger guy on the team, who's already been on the team, who's co-captain. It doesn't have Shay's perspective, but there's like a moment where it comes to a head with him, and you still get his pining and angst, even though you're not reading from his perspective, in a way that I liked. I think some people could think it's over the top a little bit, but I like that. And the rest of the story also has fun, not fun, it's actually really freaking sad. Fun is a bad descriptor. It's really sad, some of the external conflict stuff. And it goes a little bit crazy. It's really, really intense. The end of this book is really intense with the external conflict. And so I do think some people would like that less. But okay, what I was surprised about is this is ranked first, like on Goodreads ratings. This is ranked 9th. I thought the consensus was that people liked Gravity more than the rest of the story. It seems like one people would like more, because I do see like some of those things that I'm pointing out as I like in the rest of the story would be divisive. But I think that is what's going to make me pick the rest of the story in general. If you're starting with these, maybe read Gravity. There's no order to them. They're not really connected. But maybe read Gravity. Unless something I said about the rest of the story really stood out to you. But the rest of the story I think I like more than Gravity. Hard matchup. I love both of those. Okay, it's The Legend Next Door versus Pucked Up. Here's the thing. I like Zero Pucks more than I like Pucked Up. And Zero Pucks lost to The Legend Next Door the previous one. And I just know I like that one more than the other because they're in the same series. Naturally, I'm comparing those in my mind as I'm reading them. So by that logic, The Legend Next Door should walk. Is it going to? Yes, it is. It doesn't walk. I did have to think about it for a minute, and there are things about Pucked Up I like, for sure. I made it this far. Congratulations, Pucked Up. You made it further than Zero Pucks, but I am going to pick The Legend Next Door. Okay. We're going to get to the final four. We're so close. Okay. Poetry on Ice or The Husband Game. Okay, this is a hard one. Again, there's so much to The Husband Game I really like, and excuse me, it deals with serious stuff. And I really like, as I pointed out in previous rounds, I really like both these relationships a lot. So I think Poetry on Ice has the je ne sais quoi that is going to connect with me more. Yeah, I think that is what's going to make me pick it. Again, I think I'm picking the more divisive one. I think I would recommend, like broadly, I would recommend The Husband Game to more people than I would Poetry on Ice. But I like Poetry on Ice more. The sex scene stuff in it, like I said, does resonate with me. It does also in The Husband Game. I think Charlie and Dustin have like a good dynamic. They're like flirty, and I like when they get like touchy feely with each other. It's cute. And Dustin's really like considerate of Charlie in particular, and it's also good that I like Poetry on Ice. I have a special place in my heart, I think, for that. So I'm gonna go with that one. Goal lines and first times and unrivaled. Ooh. Okay. So kind of what I've discussed before is I really like Grady has this kind of baggage you understand of him being kind of closed off to people, and his arc with that, I do think it is rewarding in a way that, you see him open up more to Max, but I think he becomes a more, doesn't feel like what I talked about earlier, where it's like, found the one person he can be nice to. He's not super mean, but like he found the one person he can be nice to. It feels like he has changed a little bit. And it's easiest for him to open up to Max, but I think he becomes a little more open in general. So that's rewarding. And I've also obviously gushed about Seth's arc, and it felt also very rewarding for me. Him kind of figuring himself out as a demisexual character and figuring out who he is and what he wants, and being able to set down boundaries with that and kind of get over some of his insecurities. But I don't have as... Here's the thing is, I would have more things to say about Max in Unrivaled than I would about Cohen in Goalies and First Times. Like what I said about Cohen earlier is just kind of like he's just kind of treated as a dum-dum. I don't remember that paying off as much, or really anything as much with his characters. I kind of do with, like Max doesn't have a super crazy arc either, but it just feels more rewarding kind of for him. I wasn't disappointed by it in the way that I kind of was let down a little bit for Cohen in Goal Lines and First Times, and I think, you know, some of the Goodreads reviews reflect that, of they're kind of like, everyone just called him a dum-dum, and then he got in a relationship, and then, you know. Okay, this is the final four. Okay, our final four is The Rest of the Story by Tal Bauer, The Legend Next Door by Jesse H. Rain, Poetry on Ice by Jesse H. Rain, and Unrivaled. And that's by Ashlyn Kane and Morgan James. 2 Jesse H. Rains in the final four. Whoa. Alright, The Rest of the Story versus The Legend Next Door. The Legend Next Door has a lot of good qualities. Again, there are some memorable moments for me in this one. That are really sweet in their relationship. I think the steamier stuff is also good and a little bit memorable. I like, you know, there's a kid in there who's not annoying, and also his relationship with, you know, Jeremiah is sweet. There's not very much hockey in this one because Ben is retired. He's like dealing with, you know, still kind of missing hockey. With him being retired, it's kind of hard for him to even watch his old team play, and so he has an arc with some of that and some of his grief. I like, maybe I didn't talk about this previously. I like in this one how, you know, his previous relationship to his wife is, given some weight to it, but it doesn't like drag everything down too much. It's kind of like, he's like grateful that Jeremiah will bring her up, or acknowledge that she existed, instead of kind of like dancing around it. Like we can't even say her name because it's just too sad or something. He likes that Jeremiah cares that Ben cared about her, and that he was, you know, this kid's father. Luca, I believe, was the kid's name. Mother. She was Luca's mother. And then in the rest of the story, I like this relationship between these two characters. I like the way they pine for each other, but they're like, we can't be together because we're co-captains of this team that needs to turn it around. Like I've said before, the hockey really matters in this one. You understand where this team is. It's kind of a little bit of an unrealistic scenario, but it's interesting. And this team that really, really sucked, really turning it around in this short period of time through like some particular circumstances I didn't super get into. I also maybe didn't discuss in the rest of the story that much either. There are other players on this team that I really care about, and 2 of the players in it got like a short little, like, he wrote an extra thing for them. It's not like a book. It's like, you know, when an author writes an extra thing and you like sign up for their email list and you get it, sort of thing. But I wish there were like 6 more books with this whole entire team, or in this world. I wish Tal Bauer would write more gay hockey romance, please, sir, please. But I care about the other people on this team. The external conflict stuff doesn't just affect, you know, the 2 characters in a relationship in this. It affects other people on the team. You get to know them a little bit, and I just want to see more of them. But what is there feels like it has weight. I'm gonna go the rest of the story. I love the rest of the story. I think that one wasn't as hard as I was kind of making it. This one's just so good. All right. Poetry on Ice versus Unrivaled. Ooh. I remember Poetry on Ice better than I remember Unrivaled, even though I think I read them around similar times. I don't think these were like super spread out in years. I definitely remember the steamy stuff more. Again, what I said earlier about Poetry on Ice is their steamy stuff's probably more divisive, but I like it. So I remember it, and I remember it more. they're almost kind of dead even maybe in like kind of relationshipy, cute, sweet moments, because I do, there's some stuff in Unrivaled that I remember specifically and really liked. And I'm gonna kind of go with what I said before. I think the writing in Poetry on Ice, I don't know, maybe it's divisive. I think it's like a cut above a lot of these. I think I like Jesse Green's writing. I think this one in particular, maybe like I noticed it more than I did in like The Legend Next Door, which we just talked about, of like some good descriptive stuff that like kind of drew me in. And I do kind of wish she would write more hockey play stuff, because I do think she wrote it in a way where you can really picture it. I think it can be hard to write that stuff, and I totally understand why a lot of these shy away from that. Of you're like just a person reading that could tune out really easily, whether they understand hockey super well or not. But I think, you know, the bits of it in there were done well and were engaging and helped me understand these characters better and their relationship to each other. And this also kind of has the things I talked about with a few of these, of like, it almost crosses the line of, should these characters be together? I think it's really rewarding when that happens, and in the end you're like, yes, absolutely, I want them to be together. I hope they have the happily ever after. And that has more of it than like Unrivaled is less of a rocky road. Like Grady really has to like work on opening up to Max and stuff, and Max kind of has to not trick Grady into getting together, but like kind of guide him along in that. It's just less of a rocky road, which again, I'm probably going to go a little bit more with the one with the drama. So it's going to be really hard. Okay, the rest of the story by Tal Bauer and Poetry on Ice by Jesse H. Rain. Which one wins? I'm thinking that the rest of the story... Okay, let's break this down. We'll go through relationships. Relationships in these are... So, there's what I talked about earlier, not having a dual POV for the rest of the story. That can be seen as a disservice also. I understand why people would rather read dual POV. I don't feel like I know Shay as much as I do Robbie and Ant in Poetry on Ice. But I understand when it's done. I think it's done to great effect, but it does, maybe that knocks off some points in these relationships, because I don't get to see it from both of their perspectives. Even though, like I described earlier, there is these great moments where you do really get to see how Shay feels about it. I mean, Shay is like pretty, when things kind of come to a head, he's communicative, so. I was really shocked at the end of this book of some of the things that happen. It didn't shocked in a good way, because some stuff is set up earlier in the book, but it, because you're like relying on, you know, I've read 37 of these. I hadn't read 37 of them at the time, but things are set up and you don't think it's gonna kind of have a big giant confrontation conflict thing at the end that's super dramatic, because that's not generally what kind of happens in these. Now I'm trying to determine if that, like, the surprise factor of that is, I think I was trying to bring it up as maybe it might be a point against it, but I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that. It's part of what I love about this book, is it surprised me. I want more like this. I want more like Poetry on Ice too, though, because I think all the aspects of that one come together really well. The plot feels more cohesive than the rest of the story one does. Okay, I'm gonna pick the rest of the story. I think I was trying to bring up some of the stuff as like, maybe this is a minus against it. I think those are positives for me. I want to be surprised by my books. I read 37 of these. So you might think, okay, she just will read the same thing over and over. And yeah, kind of sometimes. But when there's one that comes along and really surprises me, Poetry on Ice did surprise me, for sure. That's why it got this far. But the rest of the story really is one I read earlier than a lot of these. And I haven't read one since that has, like, surprised me the way that this one has. And I would love to read more like this. I think maybe part of the reason why I'm picking this as my winner is what I said of, I want more books like this one. A lot of them follow a different template, and I think there should be more like this one. So I'm picking it as my winner. The rest of the story by Tal Bauer is the best gay hockey romance book ever written, so says I. Yay! Fireworks, we did it. We finally did it. Have you read the rest of the story by Tal Bauer already? Are you gonna read it because I picked it as my favorite one? Did how I describe it intrigue you? Or are you gonna read any of these books? Have you read any of them? Which ones of them were I wrong on? How did I piss you off in this bracket? I'll zoom out. Where did I go wrong? Am I crazy for picking Tough Guy over Heated Rivalry? Leave those hate comments below. Seriously, let me know if you're gonna read any of these. Or if you went, hey, I think you would really love this one. Please leave a recommendation down below too, because I'm gonna keep reading these. I don't think I'm gonna read as many this year, but I'm gonna keep reading these kinds of books. Let me know what you thought. Did I pick the right one in the end? This is Hilly Reads. I'm Hilly. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, leave a comment below, like and subscribe. And man, I love Heated Rivalry. I love that show.